The construction of asphalt shingles. In general, the fiberglass shingle is suitable for cement roof with slope of 20 to 80 degrees. The surface of the roof should be very flat. Both concrete and wood roofs are good for construction, but thickness of the wood should be no less than 12 millimeters. Tools: cutter, baseline box, tape measure, hammer, belt, nail, asphalt mastic, helmet. The size of fiberglass shingle: width 333 mm, length baseline. The first line should be placed an inward 300 mm from exterior wall. The next line, in turn, be placed an upward 150 mm from the last line. The installation of single-layer shingles: snap the line on base course. The first line 980 mm to the edge, then inward 157 mm to snap the second line. Because the length of shingle is 1000 mm and the edge should remain 20 mm, so the first line is 980 mm to the edge. Brushing the asphalt mastic: brush the asphalt mastic on base course from the bottom edge, and with a width of 50 to 80 millimeters. The installation of initial layer. If the gutter be covered, the initial layer should overstep the edge for about 30 to 40 millimeters. If the gutter not be covered, the initial layer should overstep the edge for about 20 millimeters. The installation of single-layer shingle: the first initial layer should align with the edge and cornice of the roof. The shingles must be tightly connected together. The first piece of shingle of the third layer should be cut 1/3. It should stagger 167 mm with the side of the first piece of shingle of the second layer. The bottom line of shingle should align with the top of decorative seam of the second layer. The first piece of shingle of the fourth layer should be cut 1/2. It should stagger 167 mm with the side of the first piece of shingle of the third layer. The bottom line of shingle should align with the top of decorative seam of the third layer. After the first vertical row of shingles have been completed, the second row is allowed to nail. Due to the first row have staggered 167 mm, the shingle of second row must stick in the staggered 167 mm of the first row before nailing the last nail of the third piece of shingle. Complete the construction of the roof in the same way. The first piece of shingle of the second layer should stagger 167 mm with the side of another shingle. The bottom side of the second layer should align with the top of decorative seam of the first layer and the bottom of cornice by the baseline, and nail the shingles tightly. Replenishing the sides. Cutting the shingle in 167 millimeters. One piece of shingle can be used for 6 pieces of shingle to replenish the sides. The cutting size is due to the real situation. Flashing. Installing the flashing correctly is necessary to the junction of two slopes of all kinds of roofing, for instance chimney, air vent. The parapet flashing. The base line should be placed in the roof up to 100 mm to 150 mm. The shingle must be laid to the baseline. If the shingle is too long, the rest of parts should be cut. If too short, it should be extended to the baseline. The site that is turned up should add a nail. The exposed nail and shell nosing should be covered with asphalt mastic. For the junction of different slope of roofing, the roofing blow should be laid firstly. On the corner, the fiberglass shingle should be curved and laid at the roofing above. The first layer of fiberglass shingle on the roofing above should be extended out 10 mm in the corner. Each piece of the first layer on the roofing above should be brushed the asphalt mastic. Replenishing the sides. Cutting the shingle in 167 millimeters. One piece of shingle can be used for 6 pieces of shingle to replenish the sides. The cutting size is due to the real situation. The cutting type gutter flipping a diagonal at 300 to 500 millimeters from the center of the sewer. According to this diagonal to nail the first row of shingles. the cutting type gutter. The fiberglass shingle should be laid along one of the roofing, and extended out of the gutter. The last piece of shingle of each layer on initial roofing should be extended out 300 mm to the adjacent roofing. The cutting type gutter do not split joint the fiberglass shingles at the gutter. If the shingle is too short, we can cut the adjacent shingle to lap the gutter with the whole shingle. In this way, the joint crack will be off the gutter. Do not nail any nails within 150 mm from the center of gutter. But the last piece of shingle of every layer extended out the gutter must add one more nail at the end. The cutting type gutter start laying the shingle from the lower side of sewer. Then flip a diagonal along the center line of sewer and lay the shingle till the top. In this way, the waterproof effect is better, and the appearance looks more neat and beautiful. The cutting type gutter. The shingle by large area installation should not exceed the diagonal we have flipped. No matter what method you used, firstly lay the first layer shingle upward along the edge of a roof. Extend the shingle across the gutter and make sure the last piece shingle should stretch out at least 300 mm to the adjacent roof. Then, lay the first layer shingle along the eave of adjacent roof and extend the shingle across the gutter to lap the previous ready-made shingle. The lap length is no less than 300 millimeters. The adjacent roofing should be crosswise laid with shingles. As shown in the picture, the shingles are intertwined and placed in gutter, and the shingles are fixed by the way that used to fix closed gutter. The installation of multi-layer shingle. The baseline of multi-layer shingle is similar with the single layer. The interval of single-layer shingle is 150 millimeters. The multi-layer shingle is about 145–150 millimeters. The installation of multi-layer shingle. The aim of installing the initial layer is to add the weight of fiberglass layer at eave, to improve ability of weather resistant. It protects the roofing by fill the seams under the decorative seam of the first layer shingle and the joint between the first layer shingles. The installation of multi-layer shingle. The installation of the first layer. The installation must use the whole shingle to lay in turn. The shingle should be along the edge of wall and cornice to ensure the first layer shingle paralleling with the edge of shingle of initial layer. The shingles should cling tightly together but avoid squeezing. Following the above method to fix shingle, it is essential to install the first layer shingle. In the construction, we should constantly inspect the baseline if it is horizontally aligned with the upper side of the shingles, and we should ensure the straightness of this layer. The vertical line flipped along with the side of the first layer shingle is to ensure the location of staggered joint between each layer. Pave the second layer shingles. The first shingle of the second layer should stagger at least 1/3 of a shingle to the first layer shingle at the side edge before laying shingles in turn. The lower edge of the second layer should be aligned with the upper edge of the dragon teeth part of the first layer shingle while paving the laminated shingles. Ensure 148 mm width exposing of the first layer, and make sure the lower edge of shingles is in parallel to the cornice. Pave the third layer shingles in the same way as the first layer shingles were paved. The lower edge of the third layer should be aligned with the upper edge of the dragon teeth part of the second layer while paving the laminated shingles, then lay shingles in turn. Repeat the above installation steps on other shingles above fourth layer. Make the ridge shingles. Cut a single layer shingle into 3 pieces by the size of 333*333 mm, then each piece becomes a ridge shingle. Cut the ridge with a blade. Put a piece of wood under the shingle while cutting. Do not cut the shingle on the roof directly, because it might jeopardize the newly paved shingles. 2. The overlapped part of shingles on a roof ridge should be cut obliquely, which will make the lap joint narrower than the exposed part, and make the shingles on roof more neat. 3. While laying the ridge shingles, bend each shingle along the central line to make sure they share the same extension distance at the flanks of a roof ridge. Align the shingles with snap line. Installation of ridge shingles. Draw a baseline of 167 mm downward from the center of the ridge at one side, then draw a line of 167 mm downward from the center of ridge at the other side. Drive in 2 nails on each side of every ridge shingle. The nail should be 167 mm to the bottom margin and 25 mm to the side edge. The width of exposed part of each ridge shingle is less than 148 mm. Start the installation from the leeward direction or the top of oblique ridge. Draw a baseline of 334 mm across the oblique ridge, which is separated from 2 lines of 167 mm symmetrically by the ridge. The width of exposed part of each shingle should less than 148 mm. Drive 2 nails on each side of a ridge shingle. The nail is 25 mm to the side edge of the shingle where close to the self-adhesive tape. Trim the last shingle on each oblique ridge to fit the roof at the intersection. Cut from the middle of an 100 mm section of the first ridge shingle, and nail it on the ridge. The 2 parts are separately nailed on the 2 intersecting oblique ridge. Exposed nails must be coated with bitumen Maztic.